Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a three. And in this particular video, I want to talk about the PhD stages of change. So, if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out to get through graduate school that I decided to pay the favor forward and help you out. So, how do PhD students and graduate students, so graduate students are, master's students as well, how do they actually change when they get research experience? And there's a lot of different ways that you change. And I always say that the stuff that happens inside you is probably the most important thing. It's not the research output that you actually get, but it is the way that you actually change and view the world. Now, there's three general changes or general stages of development that I think that happens to a new researcher. This was told to me, and these stages were actually told to the person that was told to me. So my advisor, or somebody that I work very, very closely with, told me these three stages. I think they're wonderful in terms of explaining what goes on. So the first stage is, this crap is amazing. So early on, when you are doing a PhD or you're doing a research trajectory, you're doing anything in sort of a research journey, you look and you read at all the stuff around you and you think that all the material, all of the research is truly amazing. It's very, very interesting. You're jazzed to be part of this process, and you love what you're reading. And every time you pick up a new paper, you're like, wow, that's a really amazing idea. There's lots of elation, there's lots of joy. It's a really fun, exciting time when you're going through this. This stage is what I would consider know what. This is when, so I study learning and I study knowledge and stuff like that. So this is the stage where you're learning what things are. So that's an important sort of component of knowledge, is just learning what things are and just knowing what the latest research is. The second stage is where you go, this stuff is all crap. It's all terrible. At this stage, what's happened is you've accumulated enough knowledge. It might be a year, might be 2 years in, where you've accumulated enough knowledge in a particular area that you start seeing the flaws in what everybody else is doing. And it becomes very clear what these flaws are as you begin to read and go in a particular direction. The more that you specialize and the more that you focus in a particular direction, the more that it's going to become clear that everybody else's work is not all that good. And you just become kind of arrogant at that point, where you're just like dismissive with everybody else and what they are doing and all the work that they're putting in. You're like, oh, that's just crap. Why are you doing that kind of stuff? Like, that's just totally irrelevant to do this particular direction. There's X, Y, and Z flaws in what you're doing. It's clear that there are these flaws. Why are you doing that? At that stage, it is kind of the know why stage, why you are actually doing something. You understand why people did a certain sort of research pattern or why they did a particular path. So it might be, you see people doing sort of survey methodology and just sort of basic survey methodology, where they're just asking single respondents what they think about a particular topic. And when you do that, a lot of people are very dismissive about that stuff because it's just opinions, what people are thinking. And you're just like, this is total crap. But you're missing kind of the point. And this is the third stage that you're totally missing the point with. And this is, how do you do this crap? When you are in doing the actual work, when you start actually writing, or when you start planning out what the study should be, when you're actually in the thick of it and you apply yourself in a particular area, you begin to realize it's very, very difficult to actually get any of that knowledge and to discover that particular knowledge. This is what is called KnowHow. So this is where and actually there is a term for, the know why and know what and stuff like that. And that actually is real stuff. So, but anyways, this is know what, or know how, where you are figuring out how to actually get things done. And the know-how component of things is generally a lot harder and a lot more difficult than the sort of know what or know why. You understand why stuff happens, but when you go to apply it, it's kind of like in statistics or in research methodology, we call this sort of predictive validity, right? Where you go and actually apply the stuff that you've understood. So you read all this wonderful stuff, you know why it actually works, and then you go and apply it. You actually predict in a particular area how you might do this kind of stuff and actually apply it. You realize that it's a lot more harder and it's a lot more kind of messier than what is described on paper. And there's lots of different reasons why that happens. The primary reason is you really don't know it as well as you think you know it until you actually apply it. That's an important point. But then the other thing is, you forget, you don't realize when you're reading a research article, it's already cleaned up and you're seeing a snippet or a synopsis. So it might be 30 pages, but it's still a snippet or a synopsis of what people have gone through. And their thought processes have changed dramatically throughout the process. And maybe the research methodology has been asked to be changed by various other people, and it's been filtered, really. At the end of the day, that's what it is, and it's been cleaned up such that it looks like it's really easy to do. You just do X, Y, and Z, and that's it, right? But when you actually go and apply it, you start to realize that, man, it's hard even to do a survey. Say you wanted to do a survey of 100 people or 100 CEOs, or you go out and I don't know, maybe you do a survey of all manufacturing companies, for example. I'm in business. That's what we might do, right? Go into that particular area. Well, you begin to realize that just getting a CEO to respond to a survey, even if it's just one at a single company, that's actually really difficult to do. And in this day and age, everybody's bombarded with information and asks. 30 years ago would have been a little bit easier because you don't get all those asks. But now with online technology, it's really easy to get bombarded with asks. And, the CEO is just never going to respond to you because they're busy. And, they just have better things to do than to talk to a PhD student or fill out some sort of really boring survey. And so you begin to realize that it is really tough to get this information from other people and to dig deep in this kind of stuff. And this know why component, it is, or the know how component, it is probably the most critical part. And that's where you begin to realize that, man, this is really tough. And at that point, the other thing that happens is you begin to sort of doubt yourself because you think that it's so much more easier. Everybody else has a much more easier time than you. And it's going so much more easier for everybody else. And what you're seeing is actually a filtered view. It's like the same thing as looking on Instagram or Facebook. You're seeing a very filtered view of people's lives. So people only display the best things. So like in a research paper, they're only going to display the best things and the best knowledge. And everything else is just, total. They hide it, right? Like at the end of the day, people just will hide the stuff that's dirty and won't show that stuff and won't reveal it and make it sort of known to everybody. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying like the tough part of making these many different decisions. I've heard of the term of I think it's the road of many forks or something like that, where you choose all the different paths to get to the moment where you actually have you have research that is presentable. Well, there's lots of decisions that are made along the way, and you have to make all those independent decisions, and you don't really know what the best way is. And so you just kind of go along until you figure out how to actually do that. And that component of knowing what is the right path and knowing this sort of know-how is very, very difficult to get to that moment. So how do you actually win at the PhD game, right? Like, how do you actually do this and develop as a person when you have all these different roadblocks? You're really excited at the beginning. Then you realize that everybody else is just, all their work is crap. And then you realize that your own work is crap and you can't actually get this stuff done. The key to the game to doing a PhD is just like in life. And all of these stages are very real, and they sort of apply to many different areas in life. And the stage that you want to think about, or what you want to think about, is persistence. So the big part of any particular career And any particular thing that you're working on is just continuing to persist at one little thing and keep moving forward at that one little thing. You have to keep pushing through these different stages, and we all go through these stages in life. We all go through many different sort of moments where we're like, well, this is really easy. I'm just going to go do that. And you realize that, nope, it's not that easy. And it's not as clear cut as what everybody tells you when you get the short synopsis of what everybody is sort of presenting themselves and being all macho and grande. It is a lot more difficult than what everybody else thinks it is, or everybody displays it is. And you have to realize that when you go and do that stuff, that you're going to face these obstacles, and you just have to keep working through those obstacles and know that, in a lot of way, you just got to know and have faith in that things are actually going to work out. And it's truly this moment of faith, and that's where you just keep going. And that's why it's good to have, maybe it is, a higher being that you're talking to, or something else that's outside of your body that you're talking to and communicating to. It doesn't matter who it is or what it is or whatever, but just removing yourself from the situation so that you can have faith in something and know that it's going to work out in the end. Now, how do you actually persist during a PhD? So I gave you one component is remove yourself, and by sort of giving yourself to a higher being, a higher order. And that's, you'll notice a lot of, addictions programs and stuff like that. They'll all be related to some sort of higher order. And a lot of clubs and stuff like that are related to higher order beings of some sort. And the reason is you're removing yourself and making yourself sort of attributable to something else or somebody else, and actually helps out to work through tough moments that you're working with and working on, right? So Alcoholics Anonymous, narcotics, NA, Narcotics Anonymous, all those kind of things, they all sort of default or make you think that you need help from somebody else, and you do. And that's the important thing, is to know that you're not the only person. You have to remove yourself from that component. The other thing that you can do is change your environment. So there's two ways that you can change your environment. The first way is to gamify the experience. Now, if you'll talk to senior scholars, they won't call it gamifying the experience in any sort of way. So they'll just say that this is the way things are done, but really they are. If you talk to them, and what people are doing is they make it into a game, right? It doesn't mean that it's removing yourself from the situation even more, right? So you are some sort of character, and you're just accumulating points and credits such that you actually get better along the way, and you build yourself up along the way, just like you would in any one of these role-playing games that you might see on the internet, or board games that you might see. You're removing yourself from the situation. You can even go as extreme as calling yourself a different name and sort of giving yourself these points and credits and stuff along the way to give yourself rewards, so you keep going with the career. And it really, that's what it comes down to. It's the same thing with the CEO, or a founder of a large company that's been growing. It becomes a game after a while. Wealth accumulation, things like that in life, it becomes a game after a while. It doesn't matter, after a certain point in time, maybe it's $50 million. You've accumulated $50 million in your life, which is a lot of money. It's hard to spend that much money. It's hard to spend the interest off that much money every single year. You'd have to be living very richly because it's like $5 million a year. You'd have to be living very richly off that interest to sort of need that money. So after that point, it just becomes a game, and you're really part of something else. And you're trying to figure out, how do you accumulate more wealth? How do you accumulate more papers? In the research world, it just becomes different. It becomes gamified. The experience is a lot more like a game, like a board game, than it is like real life, where you are surviving for you're trying to survive. The other thing that happens is people will start to build communities around what they are and what they're doing. So you'll notice a lot of senior scholars will have a community of PhD students, and they built it over time, and it just takes a lot of time, where they have given themselves, given a lot of themselves to keep going. And you'll notice that they just keep building this community. And that's a really important part of sort of doing the PhD stages, It's the same thing in life, right? People that are ultra wealthy, the ones that are extremely wealthy in the world, that are, beyond $100 million of wealth, they generally have some sort of community that they've accumulated around themselves. There are some careers that are kind of unusual that don't need that. But a lot of the ones that are ultra wealthy have a big community that's around them. For example, singers and songwriters and movie stars and all that kind of stuff, they have a community that they are interacting with, that other people believe in what they're doing. And that's an important part of building that success. So it's the same thing when you're a PhD student, and that's years from where you are at this moment. But just know that's going to be a logical step going forward, is building that community of other people, like-minded people that are interested in similar things that you're doing. And that's a really, really important part to keep you motivated, to make sure that you're having fun, and that you just keep driving forward through all of these different stages of your PhD journey. All right, so if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and do subscribe to the YouTube channel. I do appreciate it. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.